Morning. Thank you all for coming. I'm Mike Manning, President and CEO of the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank. It's my honor and privilege to welcome Governor John Bel Edwards and First Lady Donna Edwards to our food bank for this little press event. Also joining us today are Natalie Jaro, who's the President and CEO of the Second Harvest Food Bank of Greater New Orleans and Acadiana, Jane Wright Velez from the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and Corey Patty from the State Food Bank Association, Feeding Louisiana. So with that, a little introduction, I'll turn it over to the governor.
Thank you, Mike, and it's a pleasure to be here. This is not our first trip to the food bank here in Baton Rouge, but I will tell you, as you can see from the shelves behind us, there's not as much product here. And that's why we're having this event, to highlight the need for additional nutritional items that can be distributed to those in need as we approach the holiday season, but also the need for more financial donations. So I want to thank Mike for his work here. I want to also thank Natalie and Jane and Corey for their work and for joining us here today. And you're going to hear from each of these individuals as well. I also want to thank Donna for coming out today to highlight the importance of our food banks. We're here today with a call to action, and that is to help address what has become a very serious problem this holiday season, and to do it early enough in the holiday season where it can be meaningful in terms of providing additional food for the Christmas holidays. Given the recent natural disasters that have been happening across the nation, but particularly out in California, and the response to provide food assistance to those who suffered from those disasters, food banks like the one right here at Greater Baton Rouge, they simply don't have enough food on the shelves. The demand is high and the supply is low. And food banks are able, and this is one of the points I really want to stress, they are able to take financial donations as well as food item donations, and they will make those financial donations go a very long way by securing bulk food product at the lowest possible cost, which allows them to feed more people in need. But one of the things that we've seen happen with all of these disasters is the demand for these bulk food purchases has increased, and therefore the cost of those bulk food purchases have also increased, so the dollar isn't going as far as it used to. And so, quite simply put, we need more dollars to meet the same demand. And so we're calling on people to be generous in their contributions to the food banks and to do it as soon as possible. Food banks traditionally struggle to keep the shelves full during the summer when agencies see an increase in the number of children and adults who don't have enough to eat. But heading into the holidays with depleted shelves is a little bit unusual, and it's quite frankly unnerving because this is the time when I think we are all called upon to be better neighbors to one another and make sure that people have access to nutrition. This is why we're calling on everyone today who have the resources to donate to their local food bank. Statewide, there are more than 783,000 food insecure Louisianans, meaning they don't always know where their next meal is going to come from. Children and seniors are especially vulnerable. Nearly 1 in 4 children and seniors in Louisiana are uncertain of where their next meal will come from. And this is not a problem for just one part of our state, but it is across every region of our state. And that's why food banks are so critical to our state, to our people. And through a statewide network of 900, actually more than 900 community and faith-based organizations and programs, they collectively distribute more than 63 million pounds of food each year to our fellow Louisianans in need. They help connect more than 5,000 low-income individuals and families annually with the Federal Safety Net Nutrition Program, such as SNAP. To give you a more personal example, the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank serves 11 parishes where more than 133,000 families and individuals are considered food insecure, and that's 15% of the population of these parishes. This food bank distributes food to more than 100 charitable agencies that are on the front line serving the hungry. Last year, they distributed the food equivalent of 10.4 million meals and had more than 4,000 volunteers give of their time. So donating to your local food bank will make a significant difference in the lives of those who don't have access to food on a regular basis. And the truth is, we may not have any idea that our neighbor, friend, or maybe even a family member is in need. But thanks to the food banks, like the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank and the others represented here today, help is available to all of these individuals. And we should do all that we can to help keep the shelves stocked. So again, it's a call to action. We're asking everyone to donate today. You can find out about the 5 regional food banks in Louisiana and learn more about the individual agencies that serve statewide by visiting gov.louisiana.gov/feedinglouisiana. That's gov.louisiana.gov/feedinglouisiana. Helping one another is a Louisiana value, and I've seen it, we've all seen it, over and over and over. Louisianans show up for their neighbors when they are in need. Well, this is one of those times. And I know that by working together, this is a problem that we can solve. And there is no better time, there's no more important time than as we approach Christmas holidays to help our neighbors. So thank you all for your time, and thank you in advance for answering the call. God bless you all, and have a wonderful Christmas and holiday season.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Natalie Jaro. I'm the president and CEO of Second Harvest Food Bank of Greater New Orleans and Acadiana. We serve 23 parishes, stretching from the Mississippi to the Texas borders. We reach 200,000 people a year. We serve in excess of 30 million meals. But the reality is that the need is for twice that number of meals. This is a time of year that we're all very thankful. I'm extremely thankful to the governor and to Mrs. Edwards for highlighting this issue of hunger. I'm extremely thankful to be a Louisianan because, as the governor said, incredibly generous state, always willing to step up and help each other. I'm extremely grateful for the incredible abundance of good food that we have in this country, so much that there is no need for anyone to go hungry. But I also feel a tremendous sense of urgency, so I have to thank the governor again for making this call to action. As I mentioned before, we need to be providing twice as many meals as we are currently, and that's after families provide for themselves. We all know who our needy neighbors are. There are grandparents that are struggling to decide between medicine and food. There are oil and gas workers who've seen a layoff and have, for the first time, need to ask for help. Their children going to WIC clinics in Tangipahoa Parish, where we, for the first time this year, were able to give a meal in addition to the services they received there. Their patients at an oncology department at UMC, who now can have fresh fruits and vegetables in addition to the chemo treatment that they're receiving for their cancer. The thing is, you all, the people of Louisiana, make it possible for food banks to do this work. And in this season of Thanksgiving, what you give us, the food and the funds that you give us, that is what's going to allow us to do our work 365 days a year. This is the time of year that we build up our reserves of food and funds. And so when that day comes, that the governor says to us, we need your help because our state is facing an emergency of some kind, whether it's a natural disaster or an economic downturn, we'll be ready to go to work alongside the National Guard and do whatever we can do to help the people of Louisiana. So I'll end where I began by saying thank you. I'm so grateful to do the work that I do because I get to see the most incredibly generous people that I've ever met every single day. Thank you, and I hope you can help us.
Thank you, Natalie. Ms. Jane?
I'd like to add my good morning to you all, and thank you for being here, and thank you, Governor, for issuing the call to action. Food banks do this work all year long, and we rely on the goodwill of the community to exist. It takes food, time, and money to make our work possible. Time in the way of volunteers, obviously food donations, and then money to make the trucks roll. And we need those things all year long, but especially during this time of year when we come in and we think we're going to be building on reserves, and in this case, we don't have a cushion or reserves all that food's going out the door immediately. And so that speaks to an ever-increasing need. In Central Louisiana, we serve 11 parishes of the state and rely on an incredible network of volunteer partners in our partner agencies that, again, are doing this at our faith-based organizations, from soup kitchens to shelters to after-school programs. The food's critical, and there are so many in need. And just like Natalie said, we need to be doing double or even triple what we're doing to meet those needs. And so we are, again, asking for our community's help, our state's help, and assuring that we will be good stewards of those resources, because that's another way that food banks ensure, with our efficiencies, that we can stretch that dollar as far as it can go, and making sure that our neighbors are fed. You know, there is enough food in our country to feed everyone. No one should go hungry, especially in our own backyards. And so that's what the food banks are all about. And we are willing to work with anyone who's got food and donations. If you don't have a truckload of canned goods, that's okay. If you've got a case, that's wonderful. Or even if your children are participating in school food drives, just ask them to dig a little deeper. Everybody has someone to share, and that's how this all works. So again, we just thank you for being here, and thank the governor, the First Lady, for supporting us. We need all the help we can get, and thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a bad habit of just thinking, everybody knows who I am. I'm Jane Wright Velez. I'm the Executive Director of the Food Bank of Central Louisiana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Corey Patty. I'm the Executive Director of Feeding Louisiana, the State Association of Food Banks. As we've heard today, hunger is a critical issue facing many Louisianans. Whether it's the child who hasn't had enough to eat to make it through the day, the minimum wage earner who works 2 jobs to try to make ends meet, or the retired grandmother now caring for grandkids on a fixed income, hunger and food insecurity are issues that impact Louisianans across all walks of life. The physical and mental effects of chronic food insecurity are often long-lasting and drastic. For that student whose decreased energy and focus hurts their performance in the classroom. For low-income employees who have less time and resources to find and prepare healthy meal options. For the grandparent who now has to choose between buying food and buying medicine. Louisiana's food banks are on the front line in this fight against hunger, providing a vital lifeline to communities and neighbors in need. Feeding Louisiana Food Banks leverages a statewide network of more than 900 community and faith-based organizations and programs, and work closely every day with businesses, healthcare providers, state and local government, charities, and devoted volunteers who help their neighbors in need in every community across the state. Thank you to Governor and First Lady Edwards for their championing this issue in Louisiana, and to everyone able to support the work of Louisiana's food banks during this holiday season. And with that, I will open it for questions.
If you ask a question, you're competing with the train, so speak up. Yeah.
Governor, talk a little bit about what you've seen on the ground when you go to other states
Yeah.
after they have disasters, and the help Louisiana has given them as far as food supply, and why Louisiana should focus now on replenishing the shelf, not just for us, but for the neighbors we help.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Louisiana is full of generous, decent, giving people, and we take care of our own, but we also take care of our neighbors in other states when they have disasters. And recently, as I was able to speak to Governor Brown, for example, out in California, and making sure that whatever he thought he needed that we could provide, that he would ask us for that. But it's always important, irrespective of whether there's a natural disaster here or in another state. The fact is we have people who are going hungry every day. And Louisiana's not unlike other states. We're just responsible primarily for the people here in Louisiana, so we're highlighting this need. But there are food banks operating all across the country in every single state because hunger is a problem, and it shouldn't be in 2018. there's enough food for everybody, but trying to connect the needy with the food, that's what these food banks do, and it can only happen with the generosity of our fellow Louisianans, both in terms of generous food donations and generous monetary donations, because all of that is required. And again, this is something that we approach through a number of ways. The SNAP program, the nutrition programs that we have at schools and at senior centers across the state of Louisiana. You know, Donna and I have been to schools here in Baton Rouge and across the state promoting more nutrition for our children, whether it's through Share Our Strength and the program that we have for breakfast for kids when they go to school, after school meals, summer feeding programs, and those sorts of things, because we have plenty of food out there, but we just got to get it connected, and that's what this is about. And you know, we just came off of Thanksgiving, and we probably, the vast majority of us here in this room and in our state, sat down to a table for lunch on Thanksgiving, and it was just overflowing with food. But that is not the reality for many of our neighbors and many of our loved ones. And so we just need to highlight what that's the urgency of the situation as we approach Christmas. Christmas is especially critical, not just because it's a holiday season and in the holiday spirit we ought to be doing more to help our neighbors, but it's also a time when kids are out of school for 2 or 3 weeks and they're at home and they're separated from their most the access that they typically have to nutrition, which is through the lunches and breakfasts that they have at school. So the need is acute, and so we're just trying to highlight it for the people of Louisiana, because we know when we do that the people of Louisiana will respond as they have always done. You know, this is about being neighbor to one another, and as I've said before, not just neighbor to the person who lives next door to you or across the street from you, but the kind of neighbor we're all called to be in Luke chapter 10. And so we're highlighting the need, we're making the appeal. This is a call to action, and quite frankly, I'm excited about the response that I know that we're going to get across the state of Louisiana. Yes, sir.
Governor, so I want to get to, speaking of education, the teacher pay raises, first,
Yeah.
increasing money
Yeah.
for them. There was a little bit of tension yesterday at the REC meeting, regarding recognizing this kind of revenue that you would like to be recognized. Do you think that those sorts of tensions, the failure to recognize those funds, jeopardizes what would be these teacher pay raises?
Well, it certainly will if they don't reverse course, but I'm optimistic that will happen. It was very unfortunate. Yesterday, I think for the first time that anyone can remember, the REC process became very political. Typically, if the legislature's economists and the administration's economists are in agreement that revenue is coming in ahead of the forecast, then that would get recognized. And it's recognized for the current year that we're in, but also it improves the forecast for next year. As you may recall, the legislature chose to include in the appropriations bill certain appropriations below the line that would be funded once, if and when the revenue came in ahead of the forecast that the budget was built on. Well, that is the reality of the situation. But despite the work of the legislature, you saw one individual, so it wasn't the REC as a whole, it was one individual, Representative Cameron Henry, and he gave no reason that made any sense for not recognizing that revenue. But I'm hopeful that once the Speaker resumes his spot on the REC, that we're going to be able to work through this, and it won't have any impact on the increase to K through 12 funding formula for next year and the teacher pay raises for next year. The more immediate impact is we've got a constructed facility in Bunkie, Louisiana, that the state of Louisiana paid for several years ago. It is sitting there empty, and we need to be putting some of our juveniles there so that they can be cared for closer to their homes. Otherwise, the therapeutic model doesn't even work. And the funding for that is not available until they recognize this revenue that is coming into the state of Louisiana, because we have more people working, making more money, and we have more businesses more profitable than the economists had previously predicted. And all of the economists agree with that. And so, I'm confident that that with time, and hopefully a short amount of time, that the normal REC process will resume. The speaker will show up and do what is required in order to move Louisiana forward. Yes, sir.
Food banks work closely with the state on many levels. Can you talk about the importance of these public-private partnerships and the efficiencies that they bring?
Yeah, well, first of all, the food banks wouldn't really exist without the public-private partnerships. And this, again, is part of the generosity that I'm talking about of the people of Louisiana. It certainly applies to individuals out there, but it also applies to corporations. The faith-based community is exceptional in terms of providing food and other assistance for food banks. But I can let Mike and others talk more specifically about the role that our private partners play in this process. But I can tell you, we would not be able to do what we are able to do, whether it's individual companies that send their employees here to volunteer time, or they send money to the food bank so that they can actually pay for the gas and the drivers to operate the trucks that move the food, you name it. It's all incredibly important. And Mike, did you want to address that?
I think the governor summed it up very well, is we don't exist without our private partners and our public partners. It takes all of us together, all of us working together to have impact, to make a difference in other people's lives. And without any one of those supporting partners, or any one of the three areas of support of food, financial donations, and people's time, we can't do what we do. We can't afford to hire more people. We can't do it without food, and we can't do it without money. So we're really dependent on the rest of our community for us to be able to exist, to be successful and have impact.
Mike, do you mind if I add a couple
Sure.
of things? That's a great question, because 75% of what a food bank does comes from individuals, corporations, foundations. The other 25% is our partnership with government in all forms. So 25% of our food comes from the Louisiana Department of Agriculture, starts with USDA, but we're also partners with Louisiana Department of Health, the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services, the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, the Governor's Office, or the Louisiana Office of Public Health. There are many, many offices, departments of the state that we interact with, and I hope that we can do the people, or provide a service in a way that allows government to do what only they can do, but to do it better, more effectively, more efficiently by working with those groups in communities, all those faith-based and nonprofit organizations that are in neighborhoods. So it's a real blessing to have a public-private partnership.
Yes.
Was there something that struck you, or something you saw that really opened your eyes and said, wow, like this is an emergency and it is critical right now?
Well, it wasn't anything that I saw other than talking to individuals who were familiar with the current situation and looking forward to the latter part of this month, when you're going to have kids out of school for a couple of weeks, going through the holidays, and the shelves are not stocked the way they typically are at this time of year, not just here in Baton Rouge, but around the state. And so we felt we needed to act now, because if we wait a week or 10 days, 2 weeks, it'll be too late to have the impact that we want to have over that holiday period. And having stocked shelves at food banks is important year-round. It is especially important to do this when you're going into a period where kids are going to be out of school, where folks are going to be home more, but without the nutrition. And then on top of that, just knowing that it's the holiday season, trying to do what I believe we are called to do, and that is to be better neighbors to one another. It's just the right thing to do, and now is the right time to highlight this need.
Governor,
Yes, sir.
Kim Henry and Lance Harris say because of those increased revenue projections that they're considering introducing legislation that would roll back the sales tax that was passed in the last session. I was wondering what your thoughts on that.
Well, if you remember, we had a $300 million surplus when we closed the books in June. That was for last year. We started this year with a $600 million reduction in the tax burden on the state of Louisiana already. So we started this year with that reduced tax burden. The reason we have additional revenue coming in beyond the original forecast is because we have more people working, making more money than the economists had forecasted. We have more businesses being more profitable than they had forecasted. Those are good things. And that is how you make important investments like in education around the state of Louisiana. Because we haven't kept up with teacher pay across the South. Our teachers are $2,200 below the Southern regional average. 35% of our kids are being taught by teachers who are not certified or teaching outside of the area of their certification because we simply are not doing enough to attract and retain teachers in Louisiana. And the most important ingredient for quality education is to have a highly motivated professional teacher teaching within his or her area of certification in that classroom. So this is something that we absolutely need to do, and they can bring whatever legislation they want to bring for next year. We need to move forward now, and the REC, which is the meeting that we had yesterday, is all about the revenue that we can anticipate coming in. It is separate and apart from the budget. There is nothing automatic about once the revenue is recognized that it gets incorporated into the budget. But you can't even have the debate about what to do with it until it gets recognized. And the revenue is going to come in. It's coming in now. That's what the economists told us yesterday. So to simply put your head in the sand and for the first time ever to politicize the REC, which was a good government reform, because previous to the REC being created, it was the governor's office that decided how much revenue was going to come in any year and get budget to that amount. Well, they decided to take that out of the hands of the administration. That's why the legislature has its own economist on that panel. And the administration has one, and then on the panel itself, making the decision is Dr. Richardson, a preeminent economist from LSU. And all of the economists agreed with the revised forecast yesterday. It was just the one individual, Cameron Henry, and quite frankly, he did so for political reasons, and it's unfortunate, it's irresponsible, but we're going to get past it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.